Hi, my name is Michaela Miley, and this is a presentation on the photographer Cindy Sherman. This is a quote by Cindy herself. This really gives you an idea behind the thought process of her photography. In almost all of her photos, she is the subject. Even though she is the one modeling in the pictures, she doesn't see it as a self-portrait. A self-portrait is supposed to portray the subject as who they really are, but Cindy is never portraying herself in any of her photography. She is always dressed up in costume, or masks, or makeup, trying to play a character, play a role from a movie or TV show. Cindy was born in 1954 in Glen Ridge, New Jersey, a suburb of New York City. Her and her family then moved to Long Island, and that's where she grew up. Because she was the youngest of 5, her parents were relatively older when they had her. Her father was retired by the time she was in 5th grade. Because no one in her family was into art or brought it up in the household, Cindy knew nothing about it until she was in college. Once she realized she was very talented and had a love for the arts, she decided to begin her exploration of the arts at the State University College at Buffalo. Although her parents had no interest in the arts, they were extremely supportive of their daughter's decision to go to the art school. Cindy initially wanted to be a painter, but after going to school for it, she realized all its limitations and how it wasn't letting her say as much as she wanted to, so she actually gave it up. Longing for a better way to express herself, Sherman then turned to photography, which she studied for the remainder of the time in college. While she was there in college, she met a fellow artist named Robert Longo. Together they formed Hall Walls. It's a contemporary art center in Buffalo, New York, where she and fellow artists could exhibit their work. In 1977, as a 23-year-old, Sherman began making pictures for her untitled film still series. The series consists of 69 black and white photographs. Cindy was the model for all the pictures, dressing up as different fictional characters. They weren't considered portraits because she only played with elements of self-portraiture. She brought something new to the photography world. She never portrayed an actual subject. She just plays a type, a fictional person. She completed the series in 1980, and it gave her much publicity. 1 year after completing the series, she was commissioned by Artforum magazine to do a centerfold. The editor of Artforum felt that her photographs would be misunderstood, so she rejected Cindy's photos. She went on to change her style completely in what is known as the Disaster and Fairy Tale series. This was the first series in Sherman's photographic career that she was not the model herself in all of the images. This series really portrayed her love for horror films because all of the scenes she would set up in a very scary, gruesome way with doll parts everywhere and throw up and other gross materials all over the scene, including herself posing deformed. One of Sherman's most well-known bodies of work was her history portraits, where she would reenact a time in history that she would likely find out of a book. She didn't like museums or art places like that, so she usually stuck to the book she had, and it ended up being a huge success for her. In 1992, Sherman began another series referred to as Sex Pictures. These photographs were only with dolls. She was absent from every one of these pictures, and it really gave her a chance to see what it was like without her being in front of the camera, and it gave her a chance to use props instead. As of now, Cindy Sherman is still modeling for herself and doing mini-series, and she's still living in New York City, and she's been very successful with the sale of a lot of her images, going for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cindy is a postmodernist photographer who really wanted to challenge the dominant modernist notions of originality. This is number 13 in her series Untitled Film Stills, and she's representing herself as just a regular girl who is inspired to look like Bridget Barrett, and it kind of makes you wonder what's outside of the framing, because there's a lot more to it than just the... It's supposed to portray everyday reality, but it also makes the viewer think, because this isn't a real character, this is just fictional, and she was only made up for this one picture. This is number 32 from the same series, and it's Cindy posing as what appears to be a lonely woman smoking a cigarette by herself, and it kind of makes the viewer wonder where she is or why she is there, alone in the dark. This is another image from the same series, and the scene looks like it's from the mid-20th century, and it kind of looks like it's out of a movie, and you don't know what's about to happen next. It leaves the viewer wondering why she's sitting there alone, who's she waiting for. I feel like this photo is used to demystify the systems of representation, because this woman almost looks lifeless. It's hard for the viewer to tell what she is trying to portray in this photo. This black and white photo from the same series is Sherman posing as a 1950s or 1960s housewife. She's trying to show the stereotypical view that us Americans have towards this era. This is a photo from Cindy's other series she did called Disasters and Fairy Tales. She really wanted to give it that horror movie kind of feel, and she did that by combining two photographs actually. This is the bottom one and this is the top one, and they're two chromogenic color prints. And she gave it this feel by pretty much covering the mannequin in what looks to be like throw up and other obscene materials, but she really got a chance to give her audience kind of a twist, and it actually did offend some people. This is another photo from the same series, and it just depicts kind of a gruesome scene of just trash and throw up, and you can't really tell where it is or what's going on in the picture, but it is Sherman's work of leaving you guessing on why there's trash spread everywhere, why there's throw up on the towel, and you can even see a person's reflection in the sunglasses looking extremely distraught. And this also kind of marked a time when Sherman started pulling herself out of the pictures, and instead of her being the subject, she would photograph things like this, of just kind of random put together scenes. This photo is from her Disaster and Fairy Tale series, and it's actually during a time period in America where it was a debate about censorship a lot in the art field, and so that kind of explains why Sherman appeared less and less in her photographs, because if this were a real person, there would be a large debate on that. But it is, in fact, just a mannequin, and that's kind of how she gets away with some of the grotesque things she's photographing. This photo is from her Untitled Film Still series, and she kind of looks innocent with her doe eyes, and she isn't expressing too much emotion to the camera at all. Unlike this picture, also from the same series, she is projecting sexuality. She's laying on silk sheets and her blouse is unbuttoned. This picture is kind of just like, it looks like she's doing an everyday chore, caught off guard, and it's nicely framed right here by some bushes and trees. It zones right into the subject. This photo from the same series almost makes Cindy Sherman look institutionalized, and she looks backed up into a corner, and it's very geometrical with the lines pulling you in right to her. And you also notice her ghostly reflection on the wall right here. It looks like it's floating, and it gives it that kind of surrealist look. This photo is very feminine and just shows an everyday task of getting dressed, and you can see the light coming in from behind her. Just like the last photo, this is a very in-the-moment kind of still frame of her. It looks like she's in a rush to go to work. This photo is intentionally blurry, and it kind of gives her a wanderlust theme to it. She looks like she's floating as she walks through the pond. Cindy had so much she wanted to say through her art that painting couldn't utilize for her, so she switched to photography, where she found her niche. She became a world-renowned postmodernist photographer who wanted to challenge the norm of contemporary art. She brought a different light to self-portraiture because she was the subject of her own photos, but instead of portraying herself or an actual person, she portrayed a fictional character. After founding the Halls Walls Art Center, she had many great success with various photo series. She became a key figure of the pictures generation, and also by portraying a wide variety of female roles, she really empowered women.